Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of Tower Casuals, the Destiny podcast. Of course, I'm your host, Josh. Corey's not joining me today. We're talking raids and the brand new Root of the Nightmares raid. And joining me today is our Crucible Battlemaster and one of my day one raiding friends, Dealer. Welcome to the show,
Hello.
Dealer.
Hello, how you doing?
Doing good, man. After 2 days of really like a day and an hour of contest mode, we have conquered the raid. The first time either one of us has gotten a contest clear. What was the final estimation we came out at how many hours you and I spent at it?
It was 17 hours total.
About 17 total?
Not counting minutes.
Not counting minutes. We went till about 3 a.m. Central the first day, before calling it, and then came back the next day with Joe when he got off of work. But it was us, Joasis, Fox, Nadiki, and Rex. Also, shout out to Melon, who jumped in, was working on old Nezarec with us there at the end. So let's go through this raid a little bit step by step. I'll talk a little bit about the overall design of it. When you first board the pyramid, it's kind of unlike anything we've seen in the game before. It's a pyramid that's mixed with all these vines and flowers, and it gets crazier the further into the raid that you go. What'd you think about that?
It was a lot better looking than Val was in the rest of the raids. I love just the looking around more than in this raid than the rest of them.
Yeah, I mean, I loved how bright it was, personally. It was a nice change from all the dark corridors of Val, King's Fall, Vault of Glass. I love King's Fall, don't get me wrong. Y'all listen to the show know King's Fall is one of my all-time favorite Destiny experiences, but it was nice to have something that had the lights turned on. It's really the first one since Deepstone Crypt where things aren't just super dark all the time. It was a really nice change of pace, but I like when you go through the raid and everything you end up back at the start. Similar to Deepstone, you end up back at the start because the whole area around you is changing constantly throughout the raid. You know, you start out there at the first encounter. You're doing all the dunking. You can actually see Nezarec's coffin right in the middle of the encounter. And I did test this. I ran up to it, loaded back in this morning and ran up there. You can see him being rebuilt inside of it during the first encounter. You just see his head and his shoulders kind of hanging out in there. And there's little strands coming off his body, little tendons. And then throughout it, with the jumping puzzle and second encounter where you're launching yourself back and forth, if you look up from there, you can see where the final encounter will be if you were to look up. So in final encounter, you can look down and see the areas where we're shooting ourselves back and forth with the cannons. After second encounter is when things get really funky. That's when you start seeing all the roots growing and you start jumping between the ruined parts of the ship, basically working your way back to where you started. And the final fight takes place on a completely terraformed platform. There's also a tree that's growing. I'm going to say off to the left-hand side because that's, for most encounters, it is off to your left. You can see it when you go in. It's like a bulb that hasn't bloomed yet. It's almost identical to the Tree of Silver Wings from Season of Arrivals. You guys remember that activity that we did with Eris, and she would send us into the Ascendant Plane each week for a mission. It's very similar to that, and it blooms throughout the raid and grows, and it's a full-blown tree by the time you're fighting Nezarec. I didn't really catch that my first time through, but I did catch it on some subsequent playthroughs I was watching and watching people speedrun it. So this first encounter, you're introduced to the main mechanic. We had two very different jobs here. You and I did.
Yes, we did.
Fox and I figured out pretty quickly we kind of needed to do like a relay with the seeds, and that we now know that just one person can do it in that section. You don't need two people doing it. I think it made it easier for us having two people doing it. It definitely gave us more time. And I, like on contest, I'm definitely gonna I will always err on the side of caution. Um, what was it like doing, not just doing the ad clear, but like trying to clear, I guess like trying to clear paths for us, because there were a lot of guys. And it got worse the further we got. I remember more than a couple of times I was chucking heavy or throwing supers just trying to clear platforms for Rex to get a better vantage point on some of the champs that were spawning.
Yeah, so when we were clearing the ads, we had to watch for the tormentors, we had to watch for the champions, and we had to get the
Mhm.
scions. But we didn't know what path that y'all would be taking, because wasn't it randomized for you?
Yeah, it was. I'm sure that it's not randomized, but I mean, the two times that we got out of the starting section, we came close to finishing. So I think it was like our second or third run, we made it all the way to the third section of platforms, almost to the fourth, and then when we finally, the time that we got past third, we ran with it. We figured out where it was going to go quickly. Um, for us, Fox was the one who kind of noticed which way it would indicate, but us trying to, and subsequent runs will be a lot smoother, but like we didn't have set call outs of which one to go to. We just knew we knew flower was where you were going to end no matter what. But it taught you how to relay the first set of seeds. um, and then they expand on that in the second one. So like we understood it, and we're trying to teach. We were trying to teach. I believe it was you and Joe were running on
Yes.
darkness side. That was that. I think this is. I know a lot of people have complained about this encounter because the cannons that you shoot yourself with are a little janky. We definitely experienced our share of those. We had a couple scuffed runs because like Rex and I know on our side accidentally were launching ourselves over to y'all's side because it was a weird toggle. I was launched straight into a vine and killed at one point. Um, it was just that second platform, specifically on my side, that was kind of screwing us. Just everything would go downhill in a hurry if we didn't have Rex's bubble popped or have a well. I definitely think that was the survivability factor on contest over there, was just, hey, if you could just drop like a well in the middle of all that, you were fine. But also, like, more than one person needed to be picking up the buff. We did learn that more than one person could pick it up as long as they weren't the one shooting it. They had to be in the bubble when somebody shot it, and they could have the buff to pop the Centurion shields. Man, when those bosses would come out, they were fucking tanky.
They were
Like,
very strong.
I don't, and I don't. When I say tanky, I don't mean like, oh my god, they were bullet sponges. It was just because you could only damage them if you had the buff. It it definitely added a layer of challenge, which I was happy for, because I had to think about how to approach this. I couldn't just like brute force it right off the bat, like I was getting used to. I couldn't just like walk through there with my LMG. So that was kind of nice. But if I had the buff, then cool. As long as somebody's like dropping a rift on me, they're gonna die. And then once we get up to third, we had it. I think the most infuriating thing about this entire raid, though, I have to say, is that jumping puzzle.
Absolutely, man.
Like, I like a good jumping puzzle, but this, and I think as a jumping section, there is nothing wrong with this. There's some combat in it, which I really like. I like that you have to think about some of your jumps. His fucking darkness wave, though, that will wipe you. Now I understand why I don't think there's a triumph for doing it flawless. Or at least there's not a reward tied to it. If there's no title, and there's no like shader or anything tied to flawless this time. I now understand why. That jumping, and I get the point of the jumping puzzle is to like teach you about his attack, and like teach you how to create the safe zones for Nezarec's fight. But it's really annoying If anything, you should have been doing this on the way up to Nezarec and not before the third encounter. Because third encounter basically tells you, okay, take all that knowledge you just got, set it off to the side. Like, you're done. You're not going to use this. On top of that, I mean, there's clearly secret rooms that we didn't know what to do with. We could not get through the door to advance, so we brute forced our way around. I don't know anybody who's gotten that door open in the
So
jumping
there's
puzzle.
that door. So when you get in that encounter to start with, on your way up, there's several doors and areas you need to open that'll let you continue on. We missed those rooms. I talked
Oh,
to
okay.
several teams
That explains a
who
lot.
completed
That
it,
explains
and
a lot.
then most of them brute forced it. But there was 2 or 3 teams that I talked to, and I watched one of them do it. They breezed through it like it was nothing. When they didn't know what was going on, it just worked
Huh.
out for them.
Well, I'm glad that somebody figured it out. But I do think it's really really funny that we were able to jump around. I think that was personally hilarious.
That was amazing.
Um, yes, even the lowly Xbox player was able to do it. Um, I think other than that, though, I actually really like that jumping puzzle. I think it feels very, not in terms of like difficulty, but it feels like very Whisper of the Worm esque in terms of jumping and like the aesthetic and things like that. Like having to jump on narrow ledges and run along them, having to make sure your jumps are exactly right. But that that fucking darkness blast from Nezarec, I fucking hate that thing. Absolutely hate that thing. Um, the third encounter, I want to talk about this one a little bit. This is not only is this the best encounter in the raid, I'm going to go so far as to say this is one of the more creative encounters Bungie's ever done in a raid. You walk into this giant room, and anyone who played the Witch Queen campaign and remembers the end cutscene where we first saw the Witness will instantly recognize this room. This is his planet room. You see the stuff along his walls that we saw in the cutscene, and then you see the planet room there. And it's really cool because this, you instantly recognize a couple of the planets. You can spot, you can spot Jupiter, you can spot Io, Mercury, I believe Mars is up there, and Titan. We pointed out Io, Mercury, and Titan for sure. And the cutscene that played after Harden the Paint won World's First kind of confirms that we're going to go back to those planets. Those 4 planets are those planets are specifically shown in the cutscene, revolving around the Witness. But this goes back to the whole 2 truths and 2 lies things that Savathun did with us in the post-campaign content last year, where she says we will gain the ability to move the planets, and that Io, Mercury, and Titan are in her care. So that was kind of cool to see those, and like that those planets like specifically correspond to us doing damage also. This encounter was kind of wild. We were having to swap planets back and forth, get the light planets on one side, get the dark planets on the other. We had this figured out fairly quickly. I was actually proud of how quickly we figured this out, but we overthought it. We're like, there's no way it's that simple, and proceeded to second guess ourselves and do the wrong thing for the next 3 hours. Like moving, we were trying to move 4 planets across, and then we were like, why isn't this working? And realized, oh shit, we accidentally took like all the light planets to the dark side and all the dark planets to the light side. That was a mistake. But what did you think about, again, completely different roles here, what did you think about that?
When we first walked into the room, just how big it was one thing for me. Like, it is a massive room. And then when I was standing up on the center planet, whenever y'all would move them, I'd be able to just watch how they'd shifted across the room. It was completely new. I love the way it worked out.
You got
But
smacked by a planet a couple times.
yeah, if I didn't get off that planet in time, it would kill me when y'all moved it, or it would send me across the room, and I didn't want to be over there.
But yeah, hey, one real like a really quick tip there. Trinity Ghoul was doing some work in that room.
It was clearing out them ads a whole lot better than any other weapon I could. And with
Yeah,
being up so high
especially
in that
from where you
vantage
were.
point, Yeah, that vantage point I had, the boss would just aggro me, and it kind of helped y'all out on the ground, not have his
it,
aggro as often.
it was funny. Like if you could take his aggro, or I could, because I had kind of a perfect hiding spot where I was on my platform. Not that I was hiding, but I had a perfect way where like, okay, I can see the scions coming in behind me. I can see the boss. I can clear ads in mid, and I can take out my Centurion when he spawns. Again, pretty tanky guys. Same kind of health as in the second encounter. Little tanky. They're not too bad, but like I had the luxury of also being able to shred them using my heavy. Um, I think it's so important that like whoever's on ad clear is not only shooting in the mid, but they have to watch those doors. They have to watch the spawn doors there. Because those scions, if they get behind you, they'll kill you. They'll boop you up and you'll get one shotted. Um, when we actually went to damage, I'm gonna say I was a little disappointed in damage here. Not because like it is gated and you can force it through the gate, but it was disappointing because I really was hoping we were past the let's drop a well and DPS type of encounter. I thought we learned from Vow of the Disciple and how much everybody loved the Rolk fight. My first thought was like, okay, well, it's still a pretty unique encounter. We're treating this similar to Caretaker. Caretaker was a cool encounter too. I really liked the verticality of it, jumping up and having to shift floors every damage phase. I enjoyed all that. So I guess it's not exactly the same, but it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth just thinking about the DPS, even though there is a unique method to it. Like he'll try and take away a platform and you have to go back. So it's critical you have all three. The actual, I want to say like the actual health of yellow bars and majors and things like that never seemed to be a problem for us. It was always the mini bosses, the Colossus. Those always seem to be our problems. Especially like if they started shooting blinding rockets at us, that seemed to be the issue because then it was like, well, I don't want to burn my heavy, but I hope if you're running like double special, for example, hope one of those is a sniper. It got to the point where I was using a sniper in Nezarec. In fact, we'll talk about Nezarec now. I switched to using a sniper because I wasn't having a whole lot of luck with Arbalist, but I was trying to get stuns and take out the Colossuses as they spawned, and that can get a little hectic.
It
Um,
can.
you and
Um,
I did every single role in Nezarec.
I did not stun. That's the
You
only thing I
okay?
did
You
not
did not.
do.
You did not
Oh,
stun. Taking his aggro. So I want to start there. Taking his aggro is the single most terrifying thing that I've done in a raid. That boy moves so fucking fast. It is terrifying. I couldn't figure out when. So Fox was consistent. Joe and Fox were getting our stuns consistently, but the couple times that I would take them, it took me getting the stuns a couple times to realize, oh, that's why you're screaming every time he comes at you. That's why, because he only has eyes for you. So you're trying to like bob and weave through left or through right with a boss chasing you, and you're kind of hoping your other stunner can get a shot in to take the aggro away. You want to try and like contain him in middle, but it's really hard to do that and stay alive. Um, I think his attack once I had void resistance and concussive dampener, he was not unless he landed directly on top of me, like basically did the Titan slam on me. I was not dying to him. He did not one shot me ever again after that. Like I think that's got to be part of the secret there. What did you think about the? I want to hear from you what you thought about the running because you and I both had success, but you were able to do it fast enough to where we didn't even have to stun on the first encounter.
see, for the running part, it's a lot of fun to do, but you got to be quick with it to avoid that wipe mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
But in Warlock with the Icarus Dash, and I no longer had my Well of Radiance. I had the like Slam Well. So
Mm-hmm.
if I got hit by anything, I could just slam down. Or if I had the debuff from the boss that makes you jump up in the air, I could negate it by just taking myself back to the ground to hit the ball.
Mm-hmm.
But you had to be really fast with it on that first I guess first damage phase, first section of it, because then when you proceed to the second one, you lose 10 seconds. So we really had to get that stun off for the second phase if we weren't fast enough.
Yeah, I it was fun watching that and seeing just how wild it was getting. And then we tried so many, we had that down. And then we just kept trying different platforms for damage. We had our success in back left flower. It's a bit hazardous because he can throw you off the side. I still think ideally we would want to go to where Aztecross did, or like try and force it from where you and I were watching Sweat do damage from when he was doing his one
Yes.
phase challenge. But Nezarek moves he moves so much, and that I think that's fine. I think that's actually like a good way to like, oh, he's not just standing there trying to attack you, you're wailing on him, things like that. I saw Mylan Games say that they didn't even think to well because he can negate you out of your super. He can what do you call it? He can
Suppress.
suppress you. Yeah, he can suppress you. He goes, so we didn't even think to put down a well. He's like, we put on roaming supers and let him chase us around. We just like all kind of like bullied him into into an area and just like wailed on him in a circle. He like took a little bit longer, but we thought that's how you're supposed to do the encounter. I think that's actually a really fun. I think that sounds really fun to try. You get a couple Titans on Thunder Crash. Maybe Warlocks on some Nova Bombs. Hunters use whatever. I think that actually could be like a fun little thing to see, like especially now that normal is out. See how that works out for you. But it seems like you can do just about anything. The boss, his health is not insane. He was never our problem. Our problem was the survivability, specifically with the Colossuses. That specifically seemed to be the biggest issue for us.
And then
Combined with
we had the
the
occasional purple orbs he would shoot that would just one shot somebody randomly.
so yeah, I wanna take note of that for a second. Like I said, I had an issue with that one time, and then I changed up my mods, and I was okay. And I was trying really hard not to sound critical when we were doing our run, but that's why I like kept asking. I was like, does everyone have at least void resistance on? Like, I had void resistance and concussive dampener, because concussive dampener negates, or at least severely takes down the effect that area of effect damage has on you. And that's what was helping me with that with the third boss as well. In planets, with his fire attack, it wasn't insta killing me. I had a chance to dive out of it instead, or like jump or something like that. I was finding those two together was working really really well for me. Um, and then like we said, it wasn't it wasn't terrible. I don't think that damage here was half as bad as it was with Rolk, especially for a contest raid. You did not clear Rolk last year. What would you say that the sorry to bring up a painful memory. What would you say the health situation was like with Rolk versus Nezarek? It's like probably like night and day, right?
Yeah, he seemed to have a lot more health or a lot more resistance, but we were able to get the damage last year. We just couldn't survive because he'd keep knocking people off the platform.
I
We
would also
could
note
not
last year
avoid
it was
that.
a lot harder for us to stand in a well.
Absolutely. You could not stand around. You had to constantly
No.
move in that encounter.
And I think that's why so many of us like the final fight in Vow so much. Like Vow, my problem with Vow was never that. It's teaching exhibition that I don't like to do. The rest of Vow, I think, is an outstanding raid. So overall, would you say you like the raid? Do you see yourself running this regularly? What do you think about the raid as a whole? And then we're gonna talk loot.
Uh, I play a lot of PvP, so I don't interact in a lot of raids
True,
after I get
true.
the exotic. But I
Okay.
definitely see myself running this raid a lot more than I've ran every other raid we've ever gotten in Destiny.
Really?
I do. I really enjoyed the way
Okay.
this raid worked. I loved the planets. I loved the final boss. Even the first two encounters, I absolutely loved it.
I think this is going to be one of those. It's going to be like Deepstone Crypt, where it's super easy to run. If you don't know what you're doing, though, well, similar to Deepstone Crypt, if you don't know how to do it efficiently, Atrax can really hang up groups even now that are learning. I think that Planets is going to be that encounter here.
Absolutely.
But
Planets, they
the
were
rest of this, I think this is going to be. I think this is a really good raid to introduce people to raiding, to get them to fall in love with endgame PVE. I think this is a good start. That doesn't mean I think it's a good challenge necessarily, but I think this on normal is going to be similar to Deepstone. This is going to be one of those where it's like, okay, we got the hooks in you, and we're going to hit you with the punch next year and give you a harder raid, hopefully. I think that would be my biggest critique of the raid overall is, and I want to be really clear here, like we are not like top 1% raiders or anything. Like we said, this is our first contest clear, and some numbers for reference here. Um, for all Destiny 2 contest clears. Last Wish had 2 fire teams finish it. Scourge of the Past, 954. Crown of Sorrow, 104. Garden of Salvation, 96. Deepstone Crypt, 5,325. That was where we saw the first complaints of this raid is too easy. We got those complaints with Deepstone. Vault of Glass comes back out, 6,780. King's Fall, 8,650. Vow of the Disciple last year, 6,829. Would you like to? I'm assuming you haven't seen the full numbers of Fireteam clears yet.
correct.
Would you like to take a guess how many we had?
I'm going to guess with how we experienced the raid, I'll say at least 10,000.
So I have 2 numbers for you. Day 1 completions, so first 24 hours, which I would like to note we would have been a part of if we hadn't called it. 17,000 in the first 24 hours. Over the next 24 hours, the final count at the end of contest mode after 48 hours, 45,541 fire teams cleared Root of Nightmares.
That's a big difference from the rest of the raids.
That's
That is
more
a
than every single other raid, both regular and challenge mode combined in its contest period across both games.
That is insane.
That's insane. So I want to talk about a couple things with these numbers. One, if you're Bungie and you're looking at this, you've probably got you've probably got a couple different thoughts. One, you're probably fucking thrilled that many people engaged with your raid on day 1 and got a clear in contest mode in the first 48 hours. That's huge. That's huge for you. You had a highlighted partnership with Twitch. Everybody was really looking forward to this. Even if you didn't like the campaign, you were probably like, man, I'm really looking forward to this raid. Or 2, you're looking at this and you're going, well, shit. Because I actually think that the mechanics are fine in this. I will agree. I think there probably needed to be a hard DPS check somewhere. Whether that was Nezarec or in Planets. And I will say this. I think more people engaged with contests than ever before. I think that comes with the territory of growing your game as much as it has since Witch Queen was announced. We've seen just a meteoric rise in the amount of people playing this game. And we know that launch of expansions and launches of raids always bring people back to Destiny. Always. Every time. And I don't think that like seeing these numbers really jump when Deepstone Crypt comes out. That's the first big jump, and then this is the second. Deepstone Crypt was about 2.5 years ago now. Seeing this many people engage, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think that actually means that the game is in a really healthy spot. You've got more people willing to try this. And I think there's such a big jump from day 1 to day 2 in terms of how many teams cleared it. Because we had more than double the amount of day 1 cleared on day 2 of contest mode. But you have that many people who probably saw the strats that were being run, saw that World's First took 2.5 hours and went, hey, I wonder if we could do that, especially once guides were coming out at about the 14-hour mark. is when Datto and Fallout were publishing their guides. I know for sure. I had friends who decided yesterday morning, like, hey, we're going to take a stab at this. And they were messaging me last night shortly after our clear, maybe 3-4 hours after our clear, going, man, we fucking did it. We did it. We were in there for like 10 hours, but we did it. And that, I think that thrills, that, not think, like, that does thrill me to see, because I want that health across the whole game. I want that many people thinking I can engage with that. Like, I want to see a revamp on that level for things like Trials and Iron Banner. I want people to think I want them to see endgame experiences across the game and say, I can do that. I can engage with this. But so, like, as someone who focuses primarily on PvP, what does that tell you? That 45,000 teams cleared this. I don't know if this is unique clears, like this could be people running back through it again. We know a lot of people were running it on all 3 characters once they figured out how to do it. What is your initial gut reaction to that?
First reaction is this had more players just in 2 days than, I could be wrong, but it's gonna be pretty close, than Trials had any weekend the last 5-6 seasons.
Yeah, I would say since the Trials relaunch. Yeah, I think the Trials relaunch is the
Yeah,
only thing that probably would have been higher. That first season of it. Yeah,
first season of it. Ever since then, it's dropped. But
yeah.
there's that, just seeing the numbers shows, okay, there's still a lot of people playing this game.
Yep.
And a lot of these players might be newer players that have come in and just managed to do it.
My buddy who messaged me yesterday has only been playing for a year. So I would consider him a newer player.
Yeah, with how many people, now there's still a lot of teams who did manage to finish this raid, but with how many people are playing the game, that's, I'd say it's a good thing. I say the game's
Yeah.
growing. It's getting a lot more attraction with how many people are able to do the in-game content and do all the harder difficulty stuff. They might want to engage in more of it.
For sure. I think this gave a needed confidence boost to a lot of players who don't consider themselves like top raiders or top PvE players. People who like me, who are typically like, well, I'll go and try it, see what I can do in contest. I've never made it past the second encounter in contest before, and I was able to do this. This gave me the confidence to say I'm absolutely going for a clear on Wrath when it comes out this fall. I'm absolutely going for a contest clear. I'm absolutely going for one next spring with Final Shapes raid. Absolutely. I said before we went, I was debating if I was even going to do this. Like, my team and I that I normally go with, we kind of decided after King's Fall, like, our heart really isn't in it to try and get a contest one. We like the challenge of contest, but it's just the DPS checks always beat us. That's what beat us, not mechanics, DPS checks. And this one, though, I think because it was lacking a big DPS check, kind of gave me the confidence. But the team that we had, we would have beaten a DPS check. I'm fully confident in that.
We had a very solid DPS with this whole team.
We did, and we had a team that was unselfish and willing to change up wherever they were needed to, take any role they needed to. If it took an extra half hour, like when we proposed that Rex practice running, and that was after Joe left, we proposed that Rex practice running. He was like, man, I don't know, and I'm not bad mouthing him here or anything. He was like, I don't know, I don't really want to. We are like, dude, just do it. Try it a few times, see if you like it. He was like, all right. And after about the 4th run, he goes, okay, I got this. I can do this. I got this. You guys stun and clear. I will run. And that's when it came together for us. If we had figured out a half hour earlier, we have that clear on night
1. 1000%.
The other thing I want to point out with this is I think that the whole discourse surrounding this raid for the last couple of days has kind of pulled out a really ugly side of the community. For the last year or so, all we've heard is, there's so many toxic PvP players. There's so much toxicity. And you're going to get that in any online game, right? Like, has anybody here ever played, Call of Duty or Apex, or even like, back in the day, Halo 3 lobbies? There's always been toxic players when you can do lobby chat, or you can, talk to other players, especially now with text chat being in game as much as it is. You talk shit. We had it yesterday. We had tryhards and mayhem. Right? shout out Charles. But but it's important to remember there is a very toxic side of this game when it comes to PvE. And I think toxicity in PvE is taking it. I think it takes a couple different forms. I think there are the people who, and I don't know if I would call this toxic behavior. I would call it like more annoyance to the greater chronically online player base. So like, because the vast majority of people who play this game don't know about like the drama with certain streamers or world's first players. I Most of my friends who are not chronically online have no idea who somebody like Salt Greppo or any of them are, who are like, oh, we need to nerf this, we need to nerf that, things like this should be changed, this wasn't challenging enough. They're like, nah, fuck it, like I'm not online, I don't care about that, like I had a good time, I had a challenge. I think the people who are like making personal attacks are getting way out of hand. And it's just, yes, I do find it annoying. Like, he was just calling, for example, he was calling for a Well of Radiance nerf. Well, now we know why there wasn't a Well of Radiance nerf, because they kind of plan on you using it in Nezarec. You kind of have to. Most teams on contest had to use it. I think on regular, you might be able to get away without it, or without at least as many as we had. But I understand, I want to say, like, I understand the complaints of, for those top teams that are always doing the race, who are always getting those contest clears, even if they're getting it at the end of contest. I understand the complaint of, this content is not hard enough for you. And I do think that when you see 45,000, I love seeing that number. As someone who has never gotten a clear, I'm happy I was part of that. But I also understand the prestige of getting it. That this is a big deal, especially when the number used to be a hell of a lot smaller. I mean, like, I look at those garden clears, 96 fire teams cleared garden in 24 hours. And when you look at that rate, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. I understand why only that many. Last Wish, we all know the Dado meme, 2402. We all know the Dado meme here. He was third in the world and he finished it after contest. Like, I think the best take I saw was, there is a difference between this was an appropriate challenge for the top teams and we had fucking fun. That's the only thing that should matter. Is, first off, did you have fun? Yes or no? That is the first question you have to ask yourself, I think, with this raid. And the answer, I think, for us is both a resounding yes. We really love this raid. We really like how accessible it is. We like the encounters. Everything the dealer was saying. He likes it. He sees himself running it. This is going to be a fast clear once teams get it down. That jumping puzzle is going to screw more teams up speed running this than anything else. Nezarec is going to be an awesome spoils farm. I'm excited to run this raid more. But I can also empathize with the people who wanted a greater challenge, because contest is supposed to be the hardest the raid will ever be. And I can kind of get the frustration of, damn, somebody got through it in 2.5 hours. Damn. But the last thing I will say is, we have to remember that the player base is not exclusively people who can clear these raids in 3 or 4 hours on their first go in contest. The majority of players are, somewhere around our skill level. Who, yeah, we did it because we had that extra time and we figured it out. We would have been in that 17,000 otherwise. Like, the majority of us are like from spot 10,000 back. Easily. Even if you do that, that's only 60,000 individuals who clear. And this game is estimated to have over a million active players whenever a raid comes out, raid and expansion. That's kind of crazy. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on the difficulty before we difficulty of contest mode, or not lack thereof, before we move on?
See, without you saying the numbers of how many people cleared it, I wouldn't know. I would have guessed maybe 20,000 total within the 48 hours. But hearing the numbers and then seeing
that was my guess, for the record, was 20,000 across both.
Yeah, after we cleared it, and we can see that the encounters themselves, like the mechanics, I don't think they were too difficult to do. They were straightforward most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
It was just the amount of damage that you were taking in constantly was the only hard part. I think if they would have made the mechanics just a little bit harder, but adds hit just a little bit less, it would have been fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. let's talk loot real quick. Did you get any weapons? Let's start there.
I got 2 trace rifles.
Okay, did you get any rolls you like? 'Cause there's some spicy rolls on that trace.
Oh yes. The first one I got was rewind rounds incandescent. I can't say that word. And then
Ooh,
this
okay.
and then the second one was reconstruction incandescent, which I'm a big trace rifle guy.
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna be running this. There's no doubt. I'm definitely gonna be using this a lot of the time.
So I think you can roll rewind and target lock on this. And I'm very excited to see that combo out in the wild. And it is worth noting these are raid weapons; these are all craftable as well. So I will be going back in purely for this and for the auto rifle. I did not get a weapon drop until the very end. I was getting increasingly upset that we hit both secret chests and I just got armor from them since I had nothing else. Um, but the armor ended up actually helping me so much. This is the first raid in a long time where I felt like the mods actually help you. Um, and I don't know if I'll wear it every time I go in there, but it definitely for me it made a difference in the Nezarec fight. I was wearing the chest piece, and you and I were both wearing raid armor, I believe. Correct?
Yes, yes we were.
Yeah,
I think
we
we had the same mod too.
we had the same with the Cabal Exterminator, I think is what it's called.
That's it.
We both had that on. When I was running, I had the one on that anytime that you lost the buff, you got health regen, and that was helping me a lot when he would decide to attack me or I'd get pinned down by a Colossus. I could stay alive having that, doing that into my dodge. Um, that Cabal Exterminator, man. Anytime that for those of you who haven't looked at the mods, this thing is wild. Anytime that a teammate picks up either a light or a darkness buff, you get a buff to your damage on all Cabal opponents. That would have made a world of difference in that second and even in that third encounter. Well, I guess third encounter it doesn't matter because you're not picking up those, but that second encounter it would have made a world of difference. Like because I
Absolutely.
was struggling at times with just the sheer amount of ads and not really being able to efficiently ad clear. Um, Game changer, absolute game changer. The weapon I got 2 rolls of the auto rifle. Um, and I really like this thing. It's a 720, so same frame as Chroma Rush and as Crate. It's a strand auto rifle. I got it with one of them with target lock and no, not target lock with Hatchling and Thresh, which is the one I've been playing with, and that's nutty in a strand build. Even by itself, it's nutty. I really like that. And then I got oh, what was my other one? My other one might have been no, it wasn't target. Anyways, my other one had Thresh on it as well, and I don't remember what the first perk was, but I haven't used it nearly as much as the Hatchling one. That one's just been so much fun for me. I've really enjoyed it. The thing has a huge magazine too. It has like 60 bullets in it. It's wild. I can't wait to run this in every single activity from now until the end of time. I love it. I absolutely love this auto rifle. Thankfully, one of them is a red border, even though I had to buy it out of the chest. I will do a Nezarec encounter every single week just to get that chest. That's an easy 5 minute in and out on normal, as far as I'm concerned. And with you being a PvP guy, I got to know, what do you think of? I know you don't have the exotic. What do you think about what you've seen of the exotic shotgun, though?
I was seeing some people use it, and it looked from the range they were shooting it at, just testing it around in custom games, that it was like Chaperone. It's a slug, and it was
Mm-hmm.
mapping people. And then the incandescent that it would hit on them, if it was I think it was their second shot,
Yep.
it would scorch the nearby players, and they'd already be half dead. So you just swap, and 2 or 3 bullets, everybody that got hit by it was also dead.
Yeah, that's gonna be
It's
awesome,
gonna
and
change the game.
it's gonna change the game. You're gonna have to plan for it now. Like this is the first raid exotic in a hot minute where I think like in PvP you're like, oh shit, when you see it. The last time I think really was Vex at its height when Vex first came out. and that was largely because we had the fusion mods that season. So it's been a couple years since we really had a raid where we were like, oh god, oh dear, with a raid exotic in there. I really, really, really enjoy this shoddy. What I've seen of it, I don't use slugs, and I will be running it as soon as I get it. That is, still working on a couple of other raid exotics. It took me how many years to get 1K? Like 5 years. So we jury may be out a little bit on this one. Any final thoughts on the raid as we wrap up here
I
for
think
raid talk? We've got questions and we're going to rank the raid after this.
I think we've covered all on the raid that I have.
Okay.
Just that the second encounter, I was rerunning it with some people last night, helping them get through it. Because once we got our clear done, I went back to people on my friends list who were still doing it, and I went and redid the final boss. I redid the planets, and I redid the second encounter with the group. That
Mm-hmm.
second encounter, they were struggling with the balls, and now that
Yeah.
we had beaten it, I'd known you can do it solo.
Yeah.
So I was on my hunter because I didn't have the clear and I wanted more loot. I was just shadow skating across straight to the ball. It was
Yeah,
so
I
much
was seeing
easier
people
when
do
you
that who
realize
were
you can do
having
it solo.
problems with it. They were just skating across.
Like I feel like this raid's going to be one of the faster raids to run, like you were mentioning earlier,
Yeah.
off a contest. You're going to be able to clear it very quickly.
Yeah, and I don't think that being able to run something fast is I don't think running something fast is a problem necessarily. I fast does not mean bad.
I
It
think it's a
only
good
means
thing.
bad if you're looking for a really hard, you know, challenge on contest mode. That's the only part where it matters. Having a healthy balance of easy to run raids to teach and harder raids is good though. Like I think having raids like this and Deepstone are good, but having raids like Last Wish, Garden, and Vow is also very healthy. I saw someone trying to say that contest difficulty on root needs to be the base difficulty for it, and I was just like, "You're out of your fucking mind. You're absolutely out of your mind. That is not the solution, and that will discourage people from ever trying this raid." There were people getting frustrated on second and third encounters. I see people on Twitter and Reddit saying they spent hours on the first encounter and couldn't get past it. So I was feeling pretty good. We got the planets about the time that Worlds First happened. So
Yeah,
I
we
was
made
feeling
it to the planets in 2.5 hours, and
I was feeling,
that's
and that was
minus the
with us
glitches.
dicking around in the jumping puzzle.
Absolutely.
I felt really good about that. And I mean, planets, again, we would have been through planets relatively soon if we hadn't second guessed ourselves and gone, nah, that's too simple of a solution. There's no way we figured it out like that. And proceeded to do the wrong thing for several hours. So, we do have a few questions, though. I think we've inadvertently answered a couple of these while we've been just talking, just chatting it up here. Um, the first question we have is from Knox. Knox asked, "What's the greatest lore revelation of the raid?" Um, there's a few, and I haven't had the chance to read all the lore yet. We finished last night, and I just had a really low key night. Helped a friend finish the campaign on normal, and then just absolutely collapsed. Um, as Luka Doncic would say, I had a recovery beer or three. But Nox asks, "What's the greatest lore revelation?" I think for me, it's the explicit confirmation that Savathun killed Nezarec during the collapse. During Earth's collapse, right before the ghosts are created, she killed Nezarec, but she didn't just kill him; she basically annihilated him. There was so little of his body left that it's essentially implied that Nezarec's body that he has in the raid is not actually his body. So, Dealer, did you have a favorite like story or lore revelation that you've heard or seen from the raid?
I was gonna say the same thing you did. Savathun killed uh Nezarec.
Yeah. Oh man, it was
It
kind of cool, and I think it kind of implies that Nezarec's sin, the name of the helmet, probably comes from his failure to stop Savathun or failure to see her coming betrayal. with her being the goddess of trickery. I think another close second for me from the lore that I've been reading is it's implied that Nezarec was active on Earth for years leading up to the collapse. He took on a different form as like a shaman or something, probably, and was sowing doubt and fear in the mind of humans, similar to what he's doing in Neomuna through the Vex network. As we come to find through the Vex network and through the Cloud Arc, that's the whole reason why we go into the pyramid to stop him here. When he says that we've heeded his invitation, so I think there's some stuff there, and there's some other revelations. It's kind of implied that he was probably worshipped by scions at one point. Well, not at one point. He definitely was worshipped by scions, and as we all know, scions were inducted into the Cabal Empire. They're not actually Cabal; they're a completely separate species. So that adds to it. We've all seen Nezarec sin. We've all thought, oh, this kind of looks like a scion helmet, and that's still the symbol of the raid is the helmet. So we're like, why aren't you wearing it? This is maddening. Tiger Jesus asked, what's something that was on the disabled list that you wished you would have had during the raid? So that it could mean Jotun, that could mean Winterbite, Threat of Ascent, Sight and Ramparts, Necrotic Grips. What is a piece of gear that was on the list that was banned that you would have liked to have been able to bring in?
All the stuff that was banned, the only thing I had was Grand Overture.
Oh, Grand Overture, that was also on it. Yeah.
It was. That's the only thing I had that we couldn't use.
I appreciate that we saw that right as I was about to start grinding it out.
Absolutely.
I was gonna go grind because I haven't done the Catalyst quest for it yet. I was about to grind it out, and Rex, Nadiki, and Fox were all like, "God damn it!" We were all gonna bring it in. For me, it's probably a tie between Threat of Ascent and Winterbite. I would have really liked to have had Winterbite for some ad clear, especially in that first and second encounter where I was running. I think that would have helped a lot, but I can now see why it was, especially seeing how close Nezarec was. I definitely understand why they disabled it. I 100% get it now. Honorable mention to all the warlocks who had to scramble to remake their builds 10 minutes before kickoff when we found out Necrotic Grips were getting disabled. I also won't lie, Titans would have really helped at a few points. But I think the issue with Titans is the barricades are invincible, aren't they?
Yeah, they were very close.
Yeah, damn, that would have really helped. What was the next one? Fox wants to know if we're doing this again same time next. If we're doing this again together on the next raid, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, hopefully. Let's say hopefully. Nadiki asked. He wanted to ask us what our thoughts on the overall difficulty of the raid was on contest. I think we've shared that. I think we both pretty generally agree that it was. I don't know if I'd say just right. I probably would have turned up the difficulty factor in terms of not just health, because I think making things tankier is lazy. I would have probably bumped up the boss on both, or the boss health on both Nezarec and the third boss by I don't know, maybe a mil, 500k to a mil. I think that would have been a fair enough challenge. We probably would have struggled on Nez at that point for DPS just because we were running out of stuff.
Yeah,
it would have been Outbreak City at that point. Outbreak City or Rat Kings is what we would have gone to, and that's not even a joke. I 100% would have gone to those to do more damage. And then our last question is it's Joe Aces, of course, asking us, where does this raid fit in for our overall rankings? So we'll go through these pretty quickly. As a reminder, there are, I believe, 12 raids in Destiny 2. You have the first three Leviathan raids. You got Last Wish, Scourge of the Past, the Crown of Sorrow, Garden, Deepstone, Vault, Vow, King's Fall, and now Ron. Where would you slot this in at?
it's kind of hard for me to pinpoint a spot for it because it does feel like an easier raid, especially off a contest.
Yeah, let's talk
But
about it for a second. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm trying to think about where I'd put it because I'd want to put it next to Deep Stone and Val because
Okay.
I enjoy them two raids a lot, and I never seem to have a lot of problems with it with the bugs that are in both of them.
Yeah.
That's probably where I'd stick it because King's Fall, I struggle with King's Fall, and then a Vault of Glass, I still don't understand all of Vault of Glass just because I don't do it a lot. I never enjoyed the
Yeah.
raid completely. I just don't run it a lot. Don't
So
understand the whole thing.
our Vault and Deepstone, would you say those are in your top three?
Deep Stone's probably my top. Yes,
Okay. Okay. So you would put this below Deepstone, but above Vow.
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
Um, I gotta have a little bit of a different take. I think I have this on the fringes of my top five. Um, so for starters, we've all very well established my top two are of course Last Wish and King's Fall. When I take everything into account, I take encounter design, I take encounters, I take design, I take the story that's being told, the loot table. That's the only thing that really kills Last Wish is the loot. Um, and just like overall like enjoyment that I have in the raid. I think those are like the two. Those are what every raid should aspire to be. And I said last year in our Vow review that I thought that Vow very well could be the top raid in the game. And I think looking back on it after last year, Vow is probably my number three now. For me, I think this is probably going into my, and it's probably recency bias, that I'm willing to slot it in at 4 or 5. And the only thing I would flip flop it with is I would probably flip flop it with Garden. I still think Garden is one of the most challenging things, and I tend to skew more towards the challenging raids being the top ones. Of course, I'm leaving Wrath of the Machine off my list. I've never truly completed it. I feel wrong ranking it. If Wrath was on here though, like because I have technically done every encounter, Wrath would probably bump Ron to number 5 for sure. It'd be between 5 and 6 for it. And I want to say that's not bad. It should be a testament to how good the raid team is that we've had so many good raids recently. Like we've had so many ones you can run. Just you can just pop in and get like an hour's run out of. Sometimes I don't have the full time to commit to King's Fall. If things like the initial jumping puzzle or like totems start going wrong, I may not have time to commit to multiple jumping puzzles in a night or like to do Golgi or anything like that, but I can do a deep stone in 45 minutes flat, if not less. Rise of Nightmare or Root of Nightmares, I feel is going to be kind of on that same level in terms of accessibility when contest mode is turned off. Of course, it's turned off now. I'm interested to see what people who clear it on normal think, especially if they tried it on contest with like 40 extra power enabled now. Yeah, I don't want anybody to like hear this and be like, oh my god, this guy's such a fucking snob. He's putting it at like 5 or 6. I really loved Deepstone when it came out too, and the only reason I have Deepstone lower, I think, is because of just how easy it is. Like it's easier than some dungeons for me, and it's not a bad thing. I don't like the story that's told. That I don't know. It's all like kind of tight there though for me from 4 to like 7. I could probably change any of those out at any time and be happy with my rankings. Because I got Garden, I've got Rise of Nightmare. Fuck it, we're bumping Garden down. I got Rise at 4 or 5. It's one of those. It's up there. It's on the fringes of my top 5. Does not mean it's a bad raid at all. It's a very fun raid. It might be the funnest raid in the game, frankly, for me right now. And I think that the whole spoils system also putting the spoils in when they started Deepstone was a really good idea because Deepstone and Ron are so easy to just pop in and do a run or like go do a certain encounter over and over and over again. We saw it with Vault of Glass. People would load in and they play all the way up to Templar and then just farm Templar. You're going to have that with Ron. People are going to run all the way to Nezrak and then be sharing those checkpoints. because he's going to be so easy to beat over and over and over again on normal. So I look forward to when we can farm those spoils in 2 seasons. He is the new daughter's checkpoint at Oryx.
I would
So
like to let you know there's already people hosting checkpoints for
oh
Raider
my
Nightmare's Final Boss.
oh my
Like as soon as
god,
contest was over, there's a account sitting that you just join and you can have checkpoint.
that's wild. That's well. So I have to assume that that's so people can log in and get 2 extra chances at the exotic. Then if they only cleared it once on contest mode. I have to assume that that's why you would want checkpoint at this stage because you can't
You
farm.
can farm spoils. You can.
Can you farm? Can you farm spoils?
You can. I was getting spoils yesterday when I was rerunning it on my Warlock. I was getting more spoils.
Well, so yeah, you get those because you get them on each character each week. But I'm saying like, did you do like so if you
When
were
I
to
when
if
I
you were to go
redid the final boss on my
uh-huh,
Warlock, all I got from the chest was spoils.
okay.
Oh, I'm assuming you can farm it already.
Well, shit, if you can farm it already, I may be farming Nezarec tomorrow night because I need to get my spoils up. I've only got 120. I need to get them up because I plan on being able to craft at the very least I plan on being able to craft the auto rifle and the trace rifle. I like the perks on the shotgun, but I want to get a roll to confirm it, and obviously I'd rather have the exotic shotty. The linear is a little intriguing to me. It's a 3-round burst similar to the Storm Chaser, but it's solar this time. And I think there's the heavy grenade. I want to see what the heavy grenade launcher ends up looking like, even though heavy GLs are in a really bad place right now overall. I still want to see what that would look like with some buffs. So that I think that's gonna do it for us though. Any last second final thoughts on contest mode, on raid weekend, on Ron, on any of that before we get on out of here?
I think that's it. I think we've covered everything that I've got.
All right. Well, we're gonna go ahead and get on out of here. I want to thank everybody for listening to this special episode of Tower Casuals, talking about the Root of Nightmares raid. You can, of course, find us hanging out in the Discord. I think Dealer and I are in there almost every day running stuff. He's always looking for people to come play some PvP. Where else can we find you? You stream occasionally. Where can we find you?
I do stream occasionally. Twitch.tv/thedealer1.
The Dealer One. There you have it, folks. So, and of course, you can always find me here every single Thursday when we record. It posts late Thursday night, early Friday morning, and Corey and I will be back with a brand new episode this week, talking more about the seasonal storylines and starting to talk about some of the seasonal weapons. Now that I'm finally getting some time with them, with contests being over. So until next time, take it easy, Guardians, and we will see you Starside.